Welcome back to the Career Cravings podcast. I am your host, Irina Pozan, and we have the most special episode today. It is episode number 50. And if you have been with me from the start, you know how important this milestone was. Very start of the launch of this podcast in February, I had committed to recording 50 episodes this year. And of course, we got there a little bit sooner than February. So I am so excited to celebrate with you today. And to celebrate, I have such a special announcement. I've been working on the biggest project of my career to this point. And today I finally get to share what that is with you. I'm also going to be breaking down the behind the scenes of the New York retreat that I recently went on. It was a business retreat. I'm going to break down why I was there, how I got there. There are so many synchronicities to the story. It is wild. This is the biggest announcement I've ever made on the podcast. It has been 3 years in the making. It has been something that I've been pouring all of my time into behind the scenes, and I can't wait to share what that looks like with you. But before we even dive into that, I want to thank you. Thank you for being here. If you are someone who is listening to the very first episode today, then welcome. If you have been listening since February from the start, thank you so much. And your support means everything to me. And I read an interesting stat, which is that only 1% of podcasts or more actually continue on after episode 10. And we are at 50. So this is a huge milestone, and I could never do it without you, without your encouragement, your comments, your reviews, the DMs that I get. It means the world that you're here. It means the world that you're listening. It means the world that this is resonating with you. So I am so excited to dive in and also to be celebrating episode 100 and 500 and 1,000 in the years to come. So thank you. Hey, it's Irina Pozan, and welcome back to the Career Cravings podcast. This podcast has a simple mission. It's to help ambitious professionals like you build the career and life that you've been craving. Over the past 15 years, I've worked as an HR leader, designed hiring systems, led recruitment teams, and I've sat on the other side of the hiring table. I've seen what works in today's job market, what doesn't, and what separates those good candidates from the ones that actually land their dream roles. Now I'm bringing everything I've learned straight to you. Each episode is packed with actionable insights and tools to help you land your dream role sooner. Now let's dive in. So in 2022, if we rewind 3 years, I was going through my cancer journey. And at the time, that led me to spirituality and being a lot more open to the spirit realm. And what I started doing was started reading spiritual books, self-help books, and I was trying to bring my self-healing in any way that I possibly could. And at the time, I remember I would go to the library and I would leave with stacks on stacks on stacks of books. And it was hard to carry. And I would just devour them and then bring them back and read more. And I was reading Gabby Bernstein and Wayne Dyer. I went deep and read all of his books and The Secret and all of these different things. And when I look back at that time 3 years ago, it was sort of like my spiritual awakening. And I read about 100 different books on that topic, and I was always trying to find healing. And if you've been here for some time in the last couple of episodes, I also shared part of that healing journey, and it brought me to meditation and yoga and just being more open and really trying to find peace in that really, really hard time for myself. And as soon as I heard that I was cancer-free, one of the things that came to my mind was, I need to write a book. I need to write a book. And it was just overwhelming, this sensation that I had, and it needed to flow out of me. And I remember telling my friend Jacqueline, we spoke about it, and I'm like, I just have this overwhelming feeling. I need to write a book. And she's like, freaking do it. Of course, your story is amazing, da, da, da. And she was so supportive. But also I went deeper into meditation, and I knew that the first step, even though this dream had been on my heart and I knew it was a huge desire, I could tell that it wasn't the right time. My story wasn't finished. My story wasn't complete. And I had written many pages in 2022. And then I put it down. And instead, I focused on growing the business, taking it to the next level, and really focusing on that over the last 3 years. And I am so excited to announce that I am freaking writing a book. So behind the scenes lately, when over the last couple of months since this summer, I have been writing, and in, the 12-hour flight to Hawaii and back, like 24 hours, I was writing and writing and writing and wrote so many pages. The information is just flowing out of me, and I am so ready for this next chapter. And today I'm sharing this with you as a commitment to one of my goals, which is to launch this book next year. So I am going to be sharing the journey along the way with you, where I'm at, the hard parts, the easy parts, what's coming to me, what's not, what it's going to be about, all of that good stuff. But I need to take you back. So a book doesn't just randomly get written one day. So I had the desire for many years, and I knew that the timing wasn't right. But what got me to commit to the timing of this book and to pick it back up and to start writing again was actually something that also happened in 2022. So after I had that desire, I actually attended a business retreat in November of 2022 with my business coach. And at that retreat, I met some incredible people. And there was one woman in particular, her name is Rayanne, that I was so drawn to. She is a powerhouse. She was incredible. She's so inspirational. And she's someone that when you are in her energy, the only way that I can describe that is that you want more of it. You want to speak to her. You want to share things with her. You want to open up to her. You feel safe. You feel comfortable. And she's just one of these souls. So at the retreat, this was a 3-day business retreat in California. We both had the same coach, and we were there together. And I remember sitting down next to her. There were like 10 other people at the retreat. But at that retreat in California 3 years ago, Rayanne was writing her book. And that's what she went to the retreat for. We all brought different questions, and hers was all about the book and knowing kind of what to share and how to share it. And she was looking for guidance and coaching around that. And I was so mesmerized with her story. And I remember giving her feedback and cheering her on, and we just connected. And through that process, retreats are very vulnerable. You have to bring your whole self. You have to share. And that's exactly what we both did. And I shared with her my journey and what I had recently been through and what led me to start my business. And I shared the cancer stuff. And at that time, actually, anytime I would share that story, because it was so new, the cancer story, I would break down and cry at that time. So I cried with her. She looked me right in the eyes and she goes, "Irina, you have a book in you." And I felt so seen. I felt transparent. And I just look at her and I'm like, "How did you know?" I'm like, "I did start writing a book. I do want to write a book. It's just not the right time." And I explained the whole situation to her. And she goes, "Okay, well, when you're ready, come to me and I will tell you everything that I've learned." And this moment stuck with me. And I said, "Yeah, there is no one else I'd rather hire. You're going to be my coach." And she's actually a business coach as well, but we were in the same coaching program at the time. Years had passed. And then this summer in June, we had reconnected. I've been following along since this time. She has actually written 2 books, one with Tony Robbins, one on her own. I bought both of them. I supported her as much as I could behind the scenes. I even uploaded to my community that this book came and I was so excited about it. And I shared the story of how she was writing it at this retreat when we met, and always just respected her and valued her so much. But we hadn't had any one-on-one time since then, right? So this summer, I don't even know how it happened, but we wanted to catch up. We got on this call and I wanted to hear how her journey has been, because I have seen her launch these 2 books, have, explode her speaking career. She's been on so many stages speaking in front of 4,000 people. And I just really wanted to catch up and hear more from her. So we were talking about that, and she looks at me during the call and she's like, "Are you ready yet? Are you writing your book?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." And it's such a full circle moment, because I had no idea I was going to share with her that I was starting to write the book, but behind the scenes, I had just committed to picking it back up and starting again. So when we spoke, she's like, "I knew you would come back to me." And the interesting thing is, I had no idea that she remembered that moment. That moment was really special to me, because I had felt seen and I could tell that she genuinely believed in the concept of the book And she's like, you are an author. Like it's in you, it's coming. And when we spoke this summer, she told me, I have a business retreat and I'm having a retreat, which I had just gone on in New York. And she's like, you have to be there and I'll share everything that I've learned and so on. Instantly, it's like, I'm a full body yes or full body no person. So when she told me she's having a retreat now, and it was so full circle, she was writing her book at the last retreat. I'm writing my book now. I'm like, freaking obviously, of course, duh, I'm going to be there. So instantly committed. I had to check the dates because in October, as you know, it was a wild month for traveling. We were in Hawaii for the first 2 weeks. Then I was in Vegas the 5 days after that. And then her retreat was the week after that. So I'd make sure all the dates lined up and that was it. I had booked and I'm like, okay, whatever this experience is supposed to bring me is what it's supposed to bring me. So when I traveled to New York for Rayanne's retreat, it was incredible. It was also a 3-day experience, but very different. So the first retreat that we had gone to in California was in Newport Beach in like a luxury 5-star, like beautiful boutique hotel. You could walk to the beach. It was very serene, very stunning. And Newport is like a kind of a busier place, beach town. If you've ever been, completely stunning. I had never been to that part of California before and just loved it. There was a lot of time to connect with the other women that were on the retreat. And this New York retreat, I wanted to break down what we did, how it was structured, the learnings that I had taken away, and share it with you today. I will share on the next episode. I'm going to be breaking down what I was up to in Vegas. And yes, it has to do with the books. I'll break down what I am up to in terms of where I am in the writing process, what happens next, and I'm going to take you behind the scenes of that whole journey. But for the purpose of today, I will say that I am a true introvert. And I know people are super surprised to hear that when we meet because I can flex to be that extrovert. I've presented in front of thousands of people. I've been leading teams for over a decade. So I have been able to flex being that extrovert when needed, right? But naturally, when I think about where I am the most comfortable, it really is with a journal, writing, processing, reflecting. And I'm someone that loves to be around people. But after that, I also need the balance of just like, something serene to counteract that. So it's like after, let's say, a huge talk on stage, or even like my HR Star group calls or any of the coaching, it's like I will also take time to balance, to reflect, to write. So I will say this whole book process is like an introvert's dream. I literally get to do what I love every freaking day, and the words are flowing out of me. So in a span of like a month, I had written over 300,000 words, which is equivalent to over 100 pages that were literally, they were just like flowing out of me. And this is because I truly love writing. And I feel like even remembering back to being like a little girl and some of the games that I used to play library. And I remember we had this like counter and I used to stand there and I would scan all of my books and stamp them. And it's like, I've always had a fascination with books. I love writing. I love reflecting. I love going deeper. I love being vulnerable and sharing so that it can inspire others. And I feel like, just like with this podcast, you guys know, like I truly love this podcast. It has become one of my favorite parts of my job. And with that, this book is an extension of that. It's like another form of creativity that I love pouring into. So I have made this book process super fun. I have spoken to other author friends and tried to hear everyone's stories. And what I hear consistently is, of course, at a point, I'm not there yet, but it does become stressful and there are tight timelines and things are going wrong and there's shipping dates and, all kinds of questions come up or concerns with the publisher, and there's all of this pressure. I had committed that this book writing process will be none of that. It will be fun, and I am going to romanticize the whole process because I truly love writing. And I feel like if I'm writing in a way where I am stressed or feeling pressure, you guys are going to sense it when you read it. And I want this book to be so inspiring, filled with inspiration, love. And I feel like the more fun that I could have writing it, And the more inspired that I could be writing it, the more creative it will be and the better that it will be. And in future episodes, I'm going to be walking you through like concepts and different parts that will be in the book. But of course, one of my passions is careers, as you know, and designing a life and a career that you are obsessed with. And that's what this whole podcast is about. And the book will be about the very same topic. So that's what it's about high level. I'm going to walk you through more details of that. But just to say quietly, since this summer of 2025, I have been creating experiences where I know that I could be my fuel to my creativity. So going to this retreat in New York was no different. I knew that I would bring the intention of getting more clarity, getting more inspiration, getting more creativity, and of course, getting coaching by a 2-time author is going to be something that is extremely valuable to where I am in the process. So, and it absolutely was. So I know I've been getting questions about the retreat and I can't wait to break it down for you. So it was a 3-day experience. On the first day, when we arrived, I'm actually going to grab the book 1 second. Okay, I literally have the agenda in front of me. So on the very first day that we arrived to this retreat, so I have the notes in front of me as well. On the first day that we arrived to the retreat, the whole theme around the first day was grounding in our space, getting comfortable, and meeting one another. So this was a retreat for business owners and CEOs. Absolutely had nothing to do with writing a book specifically, but each one of the CEOs that were invited could bring a topic that they would love to explore further with the coaches. And I literally, because I didn't have time, it was a really busy month, I didn't even look into what the agenda was. I high level looked to see where it was. I was like, okay, cool. It's in New York. And it was in a place called Naples, New York. So I arrived, I walked through the door, and I was the only Canadian there. It was all US based CEOs and CEOs of all kinds of businesses. There was actually no other coach that was there unless they were a coach coaching us. But there was someone who owned like a huge salon in New York, in Rochester. There was someone who owned a yoga practice. There were many financial business owners there as well. And some people there had also written books. Some people there were also speakers. So it was a great community. But I walked in knowing no one except Rayanne, who was hosting the retreat. And even the other coaches she had brought on to coach us and to give us different experiences through that retreat, I didn't know any of them. I had never looked them up. I didn't know anything. I just showed up open and I'm like, I know this experience is going to give me what it needs to give me. And this is an expensive thing to do. So you probably know it's never super cheap to hire a coach or to go on a retreat where you're going to be poured into and get coaching. But you already know I love coaching. I always have a coach in one way or another. And Rayanne is one of those mentors for me. Anyway, I'm just looking at the agenda. Arrivals, and we got settled, met the community. And then this was like around 3:00. There was like a cocktail reception. There was a beautiful charcuterie board. They actually had this event planning team that was there with us for all 3 days that were just making everything that we did beautiful, which was like really nice. They actually have a podcast as well called Margs and Mindset, and they're so great. So anyway, beautiful charcuterie board with like aged Gouda and just like fruits and all of these wonderful things. And then we had dinner. And I remember walking in and it's kind of like a networking thing, but I remember thinking, oh shit, like I actually don't know anyone. And I was one of the latest to arrive since I was the only one coming from a different country. And I sat down next to 2 people that I had never met before. I didn't even know what they did. And I just kind of spent the evening getting to know people, asking them what they did. And we did like an intention setting. And then the main coaches kicked off kind of explaining what our agenda would be over the next couple of days together. Day 2 was all about embodiment. So we had a list of different experiences and we all had a custom agenda. So I'll walk you through what mine was, which was amazing. And then day 3 was all about embodiment and actually taking in what we learned, because we all know if we don't actually take action on the things that we learn, whether it's on this podcast, in a book, or on a retreat, then we actually don't do anything with that knowledge, which is a complete waste of time. It was a great agenda. Every day was like an early wake up. So the next day you could select from either doing yoga or a hike. I selected yoga, which was really, really great. Great way to start the day with movement, which I love. And then we all had breakfast together. And then the coaching session started kind of back to back to back to back on different topics, marketing, mental fitness, like all kinds of different topics. And then there were some private experiences. So all of us got a massage with a masseuse, which was amazing. We all had sauna time to reflect and like really take things in. And then also have a one-to-one coaching session with Ryan, who of course I just asked her like a billion questions about what it's like to launch a book, to go through the process, filled her in on where I am exactly since we last connected in the summer, just like spilled the beans on everything and then got her insight on that, which was so, so helpful. And also the massage was so incredibly relaxing. And then I went to all of these different sessions with the different coaches that were there that had different expertise in different areas, which was awesome. But seriously, the biggest takeaway from that second day were the connections. Like we had a lot of time where we were chatting like over dinner, over a bonfire. And this retreat was actually located in Naples, New York. I had never been there before. And it's upstate New York. It was fall time. So it was like the end of October with all of the leaves changing. And it was in the Finger Lakes district. I kept calling it Fingerling Lakes, like the potato, which was really kind of weird, but we all had a good laugh. And actually on the second day, we had a beautiful dinner catered by a chef and he served fingerling potatoes. So I'm like, I'm not wrong. Okay. There was fingerling here. Yeah. So we all had a laugh about that, but we had mindful eating practices, mindful drinking practices. There was just so much tied in to that second day, but I loved connecting with people deeply. In these types of environments, everyone is putting themselves out there. Many people have never met before. We're all sharing a lot about our business. It's very vulnerable. People are sharing kind of issues and asking for the group for support. There's also like hot seat coaching where like literally there were 20 other business owners there and they are all sharing like about them, but they're also giving coaching to each person. So I remember sharing kind of what I did with the group. And so many great connections had come from that as well. So people are pouring into each other and wanting to be helpful, which has been amazing. And seriously, it was the same at the first retreat that I attended in California as well. It's the connections you make. And this really comes down to networking, right? It's like the quality of the connections you get are going to be what you put in. Networking doesn't have to be this awkward, cringy thing. Like, yes, we all feel a little bit awkward when we're putting ourselves out there, but you're going to get out what you put in. And when you truly share with someone and you're open, like, look, I've now signed up for the retreat because I met Rayanne and because she was so supportive to me and I could tell she was someone that I wanted to continue to work with. So many great things can come from the connections that we make from the people that we meet. That was never the intention of either of us going to California, but it's just an outcome that came out of it. And the same could be true when you attend any event, right? Whether it's a conference or otherwise. So that was amazing. We ended the night on the second day with a beautiful dinner. The tablescape. I love design. You guys know I love pretty things. I am obsessed with being around beautiful things. First of all, like nature or like this tablescape that we had. And it was so sweet. We all had a personal name tag with like how Rayanne, the coach, has seen us and what she believes in us. And it was all very beautiful. We all got custom gifts and robes and it was just freaking amazing. So that was day 2. So much have come from it. I can't even break down like specifics because I literally have pages and pages of notes and I am going to be integrating it over the next 12 months, everything that I've learned. That was awesome. And then the last day, also waking up early. So it's like, I don't love setting an alarm for super early, but I'm like, okay, we will do this even on the retreat. So set my alarm for like 6:15. By 7, you have to be already on one. Well, you don't have to, it's a choice, but the physical activity begins. So the second day I took a hike through the woods of where we were staying. It was a huge property with like acres and acres and acres of land. And there were horse pastures in the middle. And then there were like these 2 huge homes and it was a bed and breakfast and spa kind of retreat. So it felt very serene, very quiet, which is like perfect for getting time to reflect and take things in. So the second day we took a hike as a group, but some people chose yoga, some people chose the hike, but the hike was a silent hike where we were giving different intentions to think about while walking through these beautiful woods. Like the leaves are crunching under our feet. The sky is blue. It was a sunrise walk. So the sun was coming up. We heard the birds chirping. It was just a beautiful way to start the day with intention. So actually something I'm going to take away with me is walking in silence. I mean, typically we're all wearing different headphones and we are listening to podcasts or music or something, but listening to our thoughts is one of those things where that is where we integrate. That's when we tap into our intuition and our knowing. That is where we actually get our most creative and wonderful ideas. So that wasn't even an intention, something that was supposed to come out of the retreat, but that is definitely one thing that I'm taking away, especially during this writing process to recharge. Then we did something called breath work. So if you have never done breath work, you're like, Irina, what are you talking about? Ours was an hour of meditation and stillness. So we all laid down. We had like a mat, a blanket. We're all laying down in this like dark room. I know it sounds kind of like a horror movie right now, but you are led through a beautiful meditation. And there was someone there that was playing a drum and you can like feel the vibration as he was walking around. And then we were taken through a set of visualization exercises and visualizing our future selves and going back in time on our personal timeline and figuring out some things that we don't want to bring with us or that we want to change. So it was a really beautiful guided meditation. But on top of that, the reason it's called breath work is that you are doing a series of different deep breathing exercises while meditating, which takes the experience to a whole freaking another level. I've done breath work and sound work or done a sound bath and breath work at different places in person. It's much more powerful in person. I've done it online as well. Not the same when you're alone. But if you could picture this room with like essentially 20 people laying down and everyone is silent and thinking about their own kind of meditation, but you hear everyone's breath and you can hear like, it's almost like a chant, a group chant where everyone is breathing together, breathing deeply. And you just hear people have very different experiences. I would say half of the room was bawling, like literally crying. There was Reiki that was happening. And if you're not familiar with Reiki, I could also break that down in a future episode as well. That's something I'm less familiar with, but I've had different Reiki massages before. So it's all different spiritual practices. And the intention of doing all of this that morning was right before we sat down for an integration brunch. It was beautiful. I was laying down. I could just feel people's energy as well. And I was going through my own visualization. And I had a huge epiphany come to me in that breathwork session. And I could actually see the launch of my book and see what it sparked into the future and the ripple effect that it had in the world, which was really beautiful. But one of the things that I saw in my visualization was me standing on a stage and giving a keynote that is related to the book and having like thousands of people in the audience and it's transforming their lives and how they felt and helping people live their best lives and careers. And the reason I tell you this is because in that meditation, like my brain at a moment asked myself, why are you seeing this? And it was sort of weird. And I'm like, I wonder why I'm seeing this. And I'm going to break down for you as well at another episode. I mentioned reading Gabby Bernstein's books, right? So I'm actually going to see her in a live show. And in my visualization was really weird. It was me on stage, but I looked like Gabby. Okay, it was really weird. And she's one of the people that I look up to the most in terms of like being an author and speaker. And her story just really resonated with me. And I saw myself as a version of her, but myself standing in my truth on that stage. Anyway, the breath work had ended and so many people are still bawling, like crying. This experience has brought so many people to tears because if you listen to kind of the guiding questions and that breath also really brings different emotions to the surface as well. And I've had different experiences that have made me cry in breath work as well. I shed a couple tears this time around, but it was more like of joy, of happiness. But overall, the sense that I took away from that breath work was that I am on my path. This is the right thing to do. And I could just sense that it's already done. It's like as if I was standing 3 years into the future, looking back, thinking, okay, it's already done. Like it went amazing. It was done. It was exactly what I was meant to do. So anyway, I took that away, but that's not even the craziest part, you guys. So the craziest part is that afterwards we go to this brunch, beautiful brunch, like little parfaits and little chia puddings and like quiches, like all kinds of stuff. And during, like, while we're eating and we're having coffee, we're sitting with people, we're talking, but we have this huge workbook that we're working through different questions on our vision and our future selves and like how to actually integrate everything that we learned over the last 3 days. So my friend Julie, who was also at the retreat, who I had just met, I call her my friend, but like we literally just met, wonderful woman, hit it off instantly. And she comes out of the breathwork to brunch and she goes, Irina, you were in my visualization. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I saw you standing on stage speaking to thousands of people after you had written your book. And I just start bawling because what she described was exactly what I saw. And it was so validating that we had the exact same vision. And she said, I was sitting in the audience in the front row watching you, and it was amazing. And it was already done. And the crazy part about her saying that, I didn't see her in my visualization, but I could just see a crowd of many, many people, thousands of people, but I could see my son and my husband in the front row cheering me on. I seriously could cry just sharing this. And the fact that she saw the same thing, I just walked away 10 out of 10 elated from that experience, was even more inspired. And this is so personal that I'm sharing this with you, but I hope you find it helpful in even hearing about different experiences that you can have. And leaving that retreat as I left. So the third day was my favorite because we really went deep for hours on like vision and future self. And we wrote a letter to our future selves. And these are all things that I'm going to break down in the future with you as well and walk you through, because there were some very good visioning exercises that you could use for your career as well. It's actually something that I'm putting in the book as an exercise as well. But I left on, again, cloud 9, just feeling so recharged and grounded and inspired. I had never had a desire to do a retreat before, ever, even though I attend them. But leaving that, I could see that in the future, I will host a luxury lakeside retreat, and it will have yoga and it will have beautiful brunches and it will have some of these transformational experiences that I've experienced because I want more people to experience these. It's just so important to do. And I'm committing to doing one of these myself, to attending these for me and my growth every single year. And I don't know when I'm going to have this retreat. It might be in 3 years from now. It might be in 5 years from now. It might be next year. But I know this is one of the experiences that I also want to give to others, especially when exploring their evolution of their careers and stepping into their new chapter and their new vision. And this is most similar to the VIP day that I did after my conference this summer. It was not a retreat, it was a dinner experience, but even there, some of those elements were really pulled in. So look forward to doing that. And I got another dream that I took away from that. And I'm not putting any timelines or pressure on it. I'm really focusing on the book, but that is how I felt leaving. That just like, this is an experience that I also want to create. And I never had wanted to do that. I thought, those intimate kind of settings aren't something that I had in mind, right? Until this experience and just attending it and it being by the lake and in the fall, it was just so wonderful. Anyway, I think you could tell that I loved it. That is what I wanted to share with you about the retreat. We had journaled, we had meditated, we had reflected. I wrote pages for my book from the retreat at night as well when we would go back. Every night we had like a fairly early night and would just go back and write and, journal on those experiences. Okay, so the last thing before we wrap that I want to talk about is investing. And I want to share the principles behind how I pick my coaches and how I invest in myself. So obviously you can tell I always love having a coach, but it depends on what season I am in. So for instance, when I was just starting my business, I had one type of coach that was going to walk me through doing that. And then next, I had a coach to grow my business and different elements of growing that. And then now, when I really thought back to the type of coach that I need for my next level, I will be hiring a huge book team. I'm going to have like an editor and a publisher and a person that does the cover art for the book. Like there's so many people that I will need to help me through this process. But one of those key roles is a book coach. And I didn't specifically go with someone who specializes in that book writing process. I knew that I could have, but I really wanted to go in this case with Rayanne as an example. So we will be working together for the next 12 months on all of the details, and I will have a sounding board and just be able to feel supported in that process. Well, when I thought about this, because a lot of you are listening to, of course, a coach's podcast, and I thought, okay, if I could walk you through how I make investments, that might be helpful. With this retreat and with the coaching, it is a very, very large investment. And the way I look at it, and I think a lot of people struggle with the investment side in themselves, wondering if it'll be worth it, wondering if they're ready, wondering if it's the right time. And what I've learned is sometimes I don't know exactly the dollar figure ROI that I'm going to have, right, when starting to invest. But that first coach that I had that helped me really start the business, I hired her twice for 2 6-month engagements. So we worked together for the first year, and that was so helpful to know that I can go anytime to an expert to really fast track my results. And now in this season, I'm like, okay, I need someone who's written a book before, and I knew exactly who I was going to hire for that process. But the way I think of it is, I'm not an expert at writing a book. I've never written a book before. And I need guidance from someone who is steps ahead of me, who has done it before, who has figured it out, who has the process so that I can save time. Because time is my most valuable asset. I could be spending time doing a variety of different things, including spending very valuable and precious time with my son, who is growing up every single day. He'll never be this little again. So when I think about investments, I always think of it, okay, will it save me time? Will it gain me expertise? Will it help me do better than I would do on my own? And I always look at it like, am I an expert in this topic? And am I an expert at writing a book? No, like I've never freaking written a book. So I want someone to lead me through that process. And now I just feel, even though I was really nervous actually, paying for the experience, paying for the coaching, wondering if it's going to be good, wondering if it's going to be worth it, I took the leap. And once that was done, I just felt relief. I'm like, okay, now it's already paid for. Now I get to focus on support and really diving into the community, into the resources, and just feeling like there is someone who is going through that process alongside of me that is invested in the process as well. So hopefully that helps in case you are also thinking about any part of your life where you may be hiring a coach. I mean, I've hired personal trainers, I've hired ski coaches. My son even had he has a private tutor that comes twice a week now that does math and English with him. He had a coach that was also teaching him baseball, which was really, really great one-on-one so that he can make the team that he wanted to make. And coaching is not something that's like new or foreign to me, of course, but I find it interesting to really like dive into the reasons why I make those decisions. And when I really boil it down to, there is always a huge ROI. I always learn, and I am my greatest asset. I am my greatest investment that I can possibly invest in. And if I can get support from someone who steps ahead of me, then I will do that every single time. I would rather do that than try to struggle on my own or have something fail. This podcast is also an example. I could have just done it myself. I didn't know if anyone was going to listen, but I hired a strategist that is now still working with me to this day, who's editing all of the episodes, and she helps me behind the scenes. But when I was launching a podcast, I'm like, I'm not going to try to figure this shit out on my own. Like I literally have never done this before. So instead of trying to spend weeks researching on YouTube or something, why would I do that when I can meet with someone and feel supported along the way? Anyway, that's how I think of it. Let me know if that resonates with you as well. So we're here. We are 50 episodes in, and this is a new chapter. I look at this as a brand new chapter where the podcast, you may have noticed recently, has been going a lot deeper on different topics that are aligned with job search, but also that really bleed into your whole life because you are a whole human. And the reason that we have careers is to live a fulfilling life at the end of the day. So this podcast, you will continue to hear now that we're at episode 50, you will continue to hear those tactical topics that are like literally how to do well in an interview or a tip or a hack or something I'm teaching my clients or the resume stuff. But you will also be hearing different things. Like recently we covered productivity, right? And being more productive. And this has been something I have been personally learning and diving more deeper into, especially with adding another project onto my plate, which is writing the book. And you will continue to hear that as well. So you'll see in the new year a lot more episodes that have to do with living a wonderful life in all areas as well as career. So I hope you love that. I would love to hear from you. Let me know whether it's a yes, whether it's a no. I think it's always a lot interesting when we have a diversity of topics. Anyway, I'm so excited to keep sharing more behind the scenes of what happens, how I end up writing the book, how it's going. And I'll be sharing a lot more actually in the next episode. So looking forward to seeing you next week. And I hope you have an incredible week until we connect next. Hey, before you go, if you've enjoyed listening to today's show, I would love your support. Please take a moment to leave a review anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And here's the exciting part. I'm running a special contest and giving away a one-on-one session with yours truly. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and send it to me in my DMs. All of my contact info is in the show notes. I appreciate you so much, and I cannot wait to build the career and life that you've been craving together. See you next week.